Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe's on the board, and it is game week. It's game week, the spring games this week for Oklahoma. Lots of visitors that are going to be parading down on Norman. Some big names that Parker and I will be talking about throughout this YouTube Live, and we will also be doing a giveaway about 9:15. I think it's 2 tickets, Parker, correct? Two
tickets to the spring game on Saturday.
Yep, that'll be big.
You got to answer a trivia question, though. Just a heads up. It's
the first person to get it right. It's going to
require some actual effort and some actual brain power to be able to win this giveaway.
Yep. Yes, it will. But yeah, there's a big game this weekend. Obviously, they're going to try to put on a spring game with whoever they have available. We'll give it to y'all straight up. There's been a lot of patchwork going on, and to put it kind of, they've gone really hard. BV is setting the tone early. The staff is setting the tone early through the spring. What to expect moving forward through summer workouts, through all this. So, and it's not like there's not a lot of big injuries. I think that there's a big misconception of, oh my gosh, there's all these people out, Parker, and there's all these huge injuries. And it's really just tired legs. And they're not wanting to wear everybody out. This week is going to be one of those weeks where you're going to start to see more and more people available. You're already seeing Jaden Rose of the world available. You're seeing Gentry Williams available. You're starting to see Blake Smith tied in. You're starting to see people return back from their dings and their nicks and their bumps and their bruises and just tired legs. And so I think the big deal was last week. They had 6, and we haven't even reported this, so I don't think anybody really has. So 6 offensive linemen were available during the last scrimmage on, I think it was last Thursday.
Not ideal.
6. So I think there was only 1 or 2 starters. I think McTwire and somebody else. It wasn't, as Parker said, ideal. It wasn't ideal. So, but it was purposely done. I will also say that. To start spring, Parker, we talked about the offense or the defense winning constantly against the offense. Well, now the offense is starting to get things rolling. They're starting to pick things up. There's a lot of psychological warfare that Venables and the staff is doing with the team. So I think that's something also that's at play here. What, as far as your overall thoughts right now, spring, and not to do hyperboles or anything, but what's your overall thoughts on spring so far?
Well, first off, I want to add that I hope everyone is staying safe with all the storms across Oklahoma tonight. I was at my fiance's apartment earlier this evening, and I drove back into the path of a mesocyclone to bring you all this program. So, listen, Brandon spent 12 hours on the road as well.
Got held on.
Coming back from vacation. So, these are the lengths to which we go to bring you all the content. We love you. Thank you for making our jobs what it is. Hopefully, everyone is staying safe tonight with all of the storms all across the Sooner State. But, man, overall thoughts on spring, I would say that the intensity has certainly been ratcheted up, and this is not a new revelation by any stretch of the imagination. This is something that we've harped on in recent weeks as spring ball has gotten rolling. I also think it's given rise to a lot of individual narratives surrounding a few players that are really expected to take big leaps this fall, and hearing such good things about guys like Andrell Anthony and Josiah Wagner and Kobe McKenzie and Rondell Bothroyd early in the process here lends a lot of optimism that once spring ball rolls around in August, You're going to build on the strides you made in March and April in Norman, Oklahoma. And by the time the season rolls around in early September, you're going to be close to firing on all cylinders. And obviously, it always takes time for a team to get things completely figured out in season. That's what this non-conference slate is going to be for Oklahoma. It's going to be a tune-up. Arkansas State, SMU, Tulsa, an opportunity for them to get right before they get into the meat of the schedule and on into Big 12 conference play. So on the whole, I'm encouraged by what has transpired thus far in spring ball on the practice fields outside the Switzer Center. There is definitely some cause for concern with all of the injuries, and I think that certainly plays into the format of the spring game this Saturday and how Brent Venables and his staff have structured it. But if we've said it once, we've said it 1,000 times. You'd rather have guys dinged up in April than in September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. I think everybody wants to know about Bear Alexander, and so I will go ahead and get the elephant out of the room there. Oklahoma's making a run, still favor USC, and I think that I would not hold your breath, get your hopes up, do any of that. But Oklahoma's trying to play ball. Like, they're trying to play ball just because it's a position that they have to play ball at. Like, you have to play ball. There are certain positions in football that you can, I'm trying to think, you can cause drama. And I don't think it's Bear that's so much the dramatic one as it is maybe some people around him, if you will. And I'm really trying. I'm like, this is a hard thing to talk, Parker. You know how hard this is to talk about without getting too deep into the weeds here. It's just, long story short, really vague answer to all you guys' questions is Oklahoma's going to try to get Bear Alexander. They are. They're going to try. But there's a reason why people are talking about USC. It's similar to the Brennan Thompson situation. It's similar to the Dasan McCullough situation with Oklahoma, where they come into the transfer portal with a place in mind that they would like to check out. And for Bear, it is USC. People tend to forget he visited Oklahoma a couple times with the previous defensive staff that is now at USC. So there is a built-in relationship there. Now, having said that, you do have Billy Bowen at Oklahoma. You do have Todd Bates at Oklahoma. You got Brent Venables at Oklahoma. You got Miguel Chavis. You have other people that were kept on staff, whether in a role as an analyst or whatever, what have you, that may have been with the previous staff that may have had a relationship with Alexander and his family. That said, there's still more to it. The NIL game is a major piece here. It is major piece here. And it's not that Oklahoma can't do it. It's how far are they willing to go to play the game? They'll play the game, but how far are they willing to go? Because you start doing that, and that's a slippery slope with other people that are already on your roster and can really start to dig up some other issues that may not have been present if you go down that road too far. Does that make sense, Parker?
It does. It
So
certainly does. And I think
I would just, if you get him, OU fans, be happy, but don't go in thinking like you're going to get him, because I would say he's going to USC at this point.
one guy it does look like you're going to get, though, is Brennan Thompson.
That is correct.
And that's
I do have information on that, though. If you go ahead, you talk about your side of it, and I'll talk about what I got told today.
No, it's all good. You can go ahead and you lead with the information. All I was going to say is that, Brennan Thompson was one of the very first recruits I ever covered in this business. Did a feature on him back in April of 2020 at my old job. So known him for a long time, got familiar with his tape real early on in the process. And my goodness, is he a fun football player.
He was
Is
one
a
of your
guy that,
first people for you, wasn't he? That you
yep,
got to like, yeah.
yeah, exactly. The opportunities that this guy will have in the Oklahoma offense and the array of facets in which Jeff Lebby will be able to use a guy like this, if indeed he is an Oklahoma Sooner, which I think he will be in the next 5 to 7 days at most, it opens things up significantly. And it only adds more speed to an Oklahoma offense that is already rife with it. When you look at Anthony and Gavin Sawchuk and Gavin Freeman and Jaquaze Petaway coming to town in June. So Oklahoma is going to be able to do a lot offensively with a kid like that. And he's a player, I think, that doesn't really have an adequate comparison when you think about the long and decorated arc of Oklahoma football. They've never really had a player quite like Brennan Thompson. They've played against plenty of players like Brennan Thompson, a la Tavon Austin, for instance, and Noel Devine, if you want to rewind a little further than that. But
you're getting PTSD. So
never has there been a guy that's worn the crimson and cream that brings to the table quite what Brennan Thompson does. So that's definitely a guy I think if you're a Sooner fan, you can get very, very excited about. Anyway, let me turn things over to you for the juice.
Well, yeah. So I was talking to somebody that is a part of his camp, if you will, today, and I totally when all this situation. I was talking to Parker today, and I'll let it be known to OU fans as well. I'm at Chicago. I'm my mind is vacationing, and Parker's texting me all week, Brennan Thompson stuff. I've texted, some sources, Brennan Thompson stuff, but my mind isn't even sitting here thinking like I know the person that is behind, like was behind his recruitment originally and helped him out and is helping him in this endeavor. And it didn't even register till they randomly hit me up today and were like, hey, you haven't talked to me about this. Let's dive into what's going on behind the scenes. I was like, okay, talk to me here. And I'm driving back from Chicago and they said, well, look, Oklahoma has a huge lead. So they prefaced it. He will visit Texas Tech. That's the plan right now, no matter what. Now, we'll see after he shows up here in about 36 hours to Oklahoma. He should be in Norman. Will now, like originally it was supposed to be he's going to arrive, I think it was tomorrow, but they pushed it back a little more so he could do it due to the restrictions and the time frame and all that, so he could be at the spring game and all that type of stuff. So he's now going to arrive, I think maybe tomorrow night, Thursday night or Friday morning-ish, to be able to stay for the spring game and do all the festivities for that. And so, but Texas Tech is there. TCU is a team that's kicking the tires around with him a little bit. He could visit, but I also talked to a source around Norman today, and the understanding is that they're in a really good spot. They understand that a visit or two may take place. But when you talk to people in his camp and around Norman, you get the sense, and I was going to announce that Parker's already put his crystal ball in. I'm saving mine I'm going to put it in during this live for you guys. So I'm telling you all live. I'm putting it in.
Live crystal ball. We love to see
held
it.
it off. I wanted to do it kind of a vacation comeback thing. I almost did it 2 days ago with you, but I decided I'm going to hold off on it. But yeah, nobody really gets a sense that anybody can compare to Oklahoma in this when you've got the relationship that Emmett Jones has, the relationship that a lot of the staff. Remember, Clemson was a big player for him at one point. And so a lot of the staff is now, even if the defensive side, they had relationship with him. So the comfortability is there. And plus, Brennan really liked Oklahoma to begin with out of high school. So this all just is working perfect. And then when you have kind of some angst towards the previous school that you're leaving,
That helps.
why not step on their throat a little bit and go to their arch rival and take a stab at them when you get the chance the second week of October for a few years. So that's where that stands. Parker, go ahead and talk about Autry. I know you and Steve Whitfong were in on that. So yeah, obviously it's Marcus Dupree's nephew, right? Or cousin, correct?
It is a second cousin of Marcus
Go ahead.
Dupree. And yes, he's going to commit Friday afternoon. That's when you can expect the decision to come down from Isaiah Autry. I believe that's been publicly announced now, but yeah, Friday afternoon, 1 p.m. is when Isaiah Autry's commitment is coming down. The overwhelming expectation right now is that it's going to be Oklahoma, especially because he's coming to the spring game this weekend. So generally, kids don't commit to one school and then show up to another school's spring game 24 hours later. So everything, and I mean everything, points to Oklahoma here. You watch the tape, he's definitely a guy that needs some development, probably not a player that comes in and makes a strong push for playing time in year one. But what you can't teach is the frame, the length, the tools that he brings to the table, the innate strength that a kid like that has. And so in Isaiah Autry, I think what Bill Bedenbaugh gets, presumably, if he is indeed a Sooner on Friday, is a tackle that isn't necessarily a project, but that can be molded, is somewhat of a blank canvas, and that you can kind of shape into whatever type of player you want him to be on the offensive line. And we know that Bedenbaugh places a priority on recruiting offensive tackles. He'll make an exception for a guy like Josh Bates, but generally his style is more to recruit tackles that have the potential to bounce inside. He'll make guards and occasionally centers out of tackles. And Autry, I think, on the contrary, is a guy that is going to be a true offensive tackle. To me, he's one of those guys that ends up sticking at that position. Now, Bill Bedenbaugh knows better than I do, and perhaps I'm wrong, but it would seem to me that that is going to be the first cornerstone of your offensive line class in 2024. And then the question becomes, what can you add to it? The Sooners are in very good position right now with 7 to 8 different offensive linemen, my favorite of whom is Grant Bricks. If you have not watched Grant Bricks's film, it is some of the most impressive film in the entire 2024 cycle. That kid is an absolute killer. And the way that he moves at his size is ridiculous. Now, he's also pretty wide open at this point. It feels like Oklahoma is going to be an official visit destination, but he's still got a few more unofficials that he is taking in April before he arrives at a decision on his 5 OV destinations. Bennett Warren is a guy that has already scheduled an official visit with Oklahoma. Oregon is very squarely in the mix there, and watch out for Florida. Got a lot of family down there, and that's a school that could end up being his 5th official visit destination. I think the Gators could end up being a bigger player there than many realize right now. And then you throw in Casey Poe, who's, yeah, he plays tackle right now, but that's a guy that in all likelihood does move inside at the collegiate level. OU leads there. That's an Oklahoma-Bama battle. He'll be at the spring game this weekend. And Caden Massey, the 3-star offensive tackle out of Linden, Kansas, got the chance to see him in person this past weekend at the UC Report Camp in Kansas City. And he's got a long way to go in terms of adding bulk. He's a basketball player who's built more like a basketball player than a football player right now, but he is every inch of 6'8", people, 6'8", hulking kid, and a lot more technically developed than I honestly expected him to be. He got absolutely cooked by a 4-star edge rusher out of Chicago now named Marquise Lightfoot in his first 1v1 rep on Sunday, but took some coaching, took some pointers, got back in the trenches, and won every single rep from there on out. So Caden Massey's stock rose for me on Sunday, and that's another guy that will official with Oklahoma and that OU is in very good position with. I think another guy that you can't forget about is Max Anderson, whose brother Nate is already on the roster at Oklahoma and whom Michael Hawkins mentioned by name as a guy that he's trying to bring along with him to Norman in the class of 2024. So I know that There's probably going to be the most buzz about Autry, especially if he commits on Friday, and Poe in the immediate future. But don't lose sight of Max Anderson either.
Yeah, you named a lot of the offensive linemen that will be visiting this weekend. We haven't put our full list up quite yet on 24/7 Sports, but I know uinsider.com. But obviously, David Stone. I mean, there's some big names that are going to be there. David Stone, Nigel Smith, like you said, Isaiah Autry, Jaden Hardy is a name, and I would challenge everybody to pay attention to Jaden Hardy over the next week or so, and just see where things move after he shows up here for the spring game, because Oklahoma's surging and surging quickly there. Michael Boganowski is another name to watch. There is I think it's oh my gosh, Gallegos.
Marquise Gallegos.
Marquise Gallegos. Yeah, I reported on him like a week and a half ago, maybe 10 days ago. It is lightning, guys. So if I lose electricity, it's flickering. I'm sorry. But Gallegos will be coming from California to visit Oklahoma for the first time, which is a big deal. Oklahoma is pushing really hard there with Brandon Hall and a couple other guys. 4-star wide receiver Zion Kearney is a name that we have. I was told today 5-star Bryant Wesco is expected to be in Norman, but I'm working to confirm that 100%. That would be another huge addition. Obviously, 4-star defensive lineman Nigel Smith, 4-star DB out of Tulsa Union, Devin Jordan and Parker confirmed what I reported a couple weeks ago about TCU being a big player there. His coach at Tulsa Union is a former TCU player, has a huge influence on Devin. And so Oklahoma is working to overcome that. I think this spring game might just be the straw that breaks camel's back there for him and move Oklahoma into that favor. And he actually told me that at the C4 tournament. He said, look, I'll tell you, TCU's up there and maybe my number one, but I've only visited Oklahoma once and then camped there once. So I don't have a relationship like I do, an everyday relationship, because of Coach Reed at Union being a TCU grad and a former TCU player. So there's a big comfortability for him at TCU. But he said, look, the coaching staff, Coach Venables, Coach Valai, all those guys have continued to push him really hard. And Venables wants Devin Jordan very badly. So they're going to make a big run and make him a major priority this week at the spring game. So that's just a kind of a broad scope. Oh, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Joseph Ajone. Fast rising defensive lineman, could be that interior, exterior type guy, kind of like Jalen Redmond, has that frame, long, twitchy type defensive lineman, rising quickly in the rankings, will be at OU this weekend. And Parker and I will tell you, he is a name to watch. Watch him closely.
Yep.
He loves him some Oklahoma.
Yep.
And another name to watch, and a reporter on OU Insider, Dominic McKinley.
Hey, Brandon, let me ask you this, because I had this conversation today on the radio with Tyler McComas.
Okay.
3 months from now, July 19th.
Ooh, how many commits?
You think people are still moaning and complaining about Todd Bates as a recruiter?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Hey, we had a super chat from Mongo a while back that we did not get to, so we need to loop back around to it. Mongo says, who is Parker going to interview for the KREF pregame show? We demand another chair to be sacrificed, referring, of course, to the infamous Heath Ozida incident. We also need to shout out Ricardo LeBlanc. What's up? Oh, thanks, Mongo. He just threw another $10 in.
Okay, I don't know this
purpose.
Heath Ozida. What happened here?
So Heath Ozida shows up. It was him and Jackson Arnold and, gosh, it might have been just those. I feel like there was a third, but maybe I'm wrong. But Jackson Arnold was there. And and Jackson was doing the whole pregame show with us. I want to say that was the Kansas State game. It was either the Kent State game or the
Kansas.
Kansas
It was the
State game.
Kansas game.
Was it the Kansas
It
game?
was KU. Yep, it was KU.
For some reason, that doesn't feel right to me. But anyway,
Yeah,
regardless,
because they just come back from the OU Texas, or because Oklahoma lost, and they come back and they beat Kansas that weekend because he came up and did the interview with you. That because he played Alito the night before.
interesting.
Don't tell me why I know that. I just know that. I don't know why.
I will get you an exact answer on when
Okay,
that took
you may be
place.
right, but I feel like it's Kansas.
Anyway, that's largely irrelevant to the point at hand. What I was getting at was Heath Ozida shows up. I'm in the middle of an interview with him and Jackson Arnold, and I swear there was a third. I can't remember offhand who it was. But Heath Ozida is sitting in one of those folding lawn chairs, right? One of those chairs that you fold up and it's got a fabric bottom. Of course, Heath Ozida is 295 pounds. And so at a certain point, the thing just collapses. So and it happens like while he's talking on what street is that? What street is that? Boyd Street. No, not Boyd Street.
Brooks, right? Was it Brooks?
Asp? Is it Asp? I should know this. I don't. It's whatever street runs along Campus Corner.
Brooks that runs along Campus Corner.
Yeah, we're on Campus Corner, and he's in the middle of giving an answer to some question I'd asked about. There you go. Shannon Bear says Asp. Some question I'd asked about Bill Beatonbow, and the bottom just falls out of this chair. And of course, everybody is like looking around out in the gallery, like what just happened? He's like, he actually like, if you were just listening on the radio and weren't there, you might not have known it had happened if we hadn't acknowledged it. He did a really good job of playing it off. But I will say this. I'm doing the post-game show for the spring game. I don't know exactly for certain who we will have on the post-game show. There are a few intriguing possibilities, though. Many will recall that Nigel Smith did part of the post-game show with us last year. I am told that there is a possibility an ex-Longhorn might make a cameo on the show.
There it is. There it is. I was waiting for you to say something.
We'll see what happens. By the way, 5 minutes from now, 9:15, we're giving away 2 tickets to the spring game. Be prepared to answer a trivia question. Okay, so everybody's watching. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your kids, tell your uncles. Spring game ticket giveaway in 5 minutes. Until then, Jagger Ferris wants to know next 5 commitments. Brandon, next 5 commitments. You got to pick them. Go.
Okay, Autry, Hardy, Ajone. Do they have to be in 24? Or can they be 25 too?
They could be transfers.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's do this. So, Autry, Hardy, Ajone. Let me look at the list here real quick of who's visiting, and I'll tell you. I'll go Casey Poe and Xavier Robinson.
Okay.
It's a pretty good list.
Yeah, I will.
I think OU fans will take that and be happy too.
Yeah, no question.
But Brennan Thompson doesn't count, does he?
You can throw Brennan Thompson.
Okay, it's 6.
I was going
Brennan
to.
Thompson.
Okay,
Right.
yeah. So I am. Here's my answer. Autry and Hardy, start with those 2. Brennan Thompson, and then my next 2 are. I'm really throwing darts here. David Stone and Michael Patterson McDonald.
Wow. No, I could see Patterson McDonald. I could see MPM doing it, but David really he likes playing the game too much for me, man.
And I feel
Like
that,
him from Oklahoma, though.
yeah, I feel that, but coming home for the spring game, man, I know it's kind of a shot in the dark
Yeah.
and it's more based on vibes than intel. But if Oklahoma could get him to shut it down at this spring game, and I think they could, to be honest, he likes playing the game, but I don't know that he's going to drag it all the way to signing day like Peyton Bowen. I don't know if the OU staff would let that happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. He wants it
I
done by August.
Yeah, exactly. And so that realistically, what else are you going to see / do you feel like you need to see that's going to change your mind? Because I think you and I are both in agreement, Brandon, as are many in the industry, that the road leads back to Oklahoma for David Stone.
Unless you're a Michigan State person, then they think
Well,
it's
sure.
East Lansing. But I mean, let's just say there's a reason why people are starting, even after he visits Michigan State and everything starts to go back towards Oklahoma after the Michigan State visit. Now, you take that for what you will. And then David gets on there and tries to throw deflections like, I don't know how people are coming up with this. Well, because it's just what we do. Hey, it's 9:15.
Okay.
Let's do
So
it.
here we go. You're going to need to be watching. Well, obviously, you're going to need to be watching, but you're also going to need to have the chat pulled up because we're going to take answers to this trivia question in the live chat. So many of you are already interacting in the live chat. Those of you that aren't are going to need to navigate there. We've got a trivia question for you, and I will give you this hint up front. The answer is a player, and this player will be present at the spring game on Saturday. So very currently relevant. Here's the question. The winner, first one to submit their answer in the super chat, or not the super chat, but just the general chat, gets 2 free tickets to the Oklahoma spring game. If you get the correct answer in first, we will have you coordinate with our producer, Spencer,
Okay, that's what I
to
was about to
receive your tickets.
Yeah.
Here's the question. Drum roll, please. Who had the most recent special teams touchdown for Oklahoma? The most recent special teams touchdown for Oklahoma. First one to answer correctly wins 2 tickets to the spring game. We're monitoring the super chat as we speak.
Josh Norman. 2000.
I think they're on a slight delay here. So we're seeing all of the premature answers. People are just throwing darts before they have the chance to actually.
Yeah, gum. How bad do you all think that the special teams have been? Ooh,
We have a correct answer.
See, somebody. Hey, so I want y'all to understand this. So my question, we chose Parker's, but my question was going to be, who was the second leading receiver in 2012? And Parker can tell you it's a tough question to answer because of the 4 receivers that were on that team, and all of them had a crap ton of yards.
Now we have a correct answer. And it was a little bit of a trick question. I was hoping to throw some of y'all for a loop. The correct answer.
Yeah, well, who put it on there?
The correct answer is Zach Schmidt. Mongo submitted the correct answer before anybody did. Yep. And I thought a lot of y'all would go back to the most recent return touchdown for Oklahoma, which for a kick was Joe Mixon in 2016. Mm-hmm. For a punt was D.D. Westbrook in 2016. And Austin Stogner had a blocked punt recovery in the end zone for Oklahoma in 2019 as a true freshman. But the correct answer is indeed Zach Schmidt. Mongo, you are the winner. Go ahead and DM OU Insider on Twitter. I believe the DMs should be open. If they're not, just DM me. We will get your information. We will send you 2 free tickets to the spring game. Mongo is the winner.
Just I want to see that. Like, who, just for kicks and giggles, people, who was the second leading receiver in 2012? So I want to see if somebody answers that quickly. It's kind of hard. I it's not as easy as people think it is, and somebody's going to Google it really quick and come up with it easy. But
we're going to be waiting a minute, Brandon.
yeah, we're going to wait because it's delayed. But people said Ryan Broyles.
A lot of people saying Kenny Stills.
It is not Kenny Stills.
Deron Neal. Nope,
It's
not him either.
See, I knew it would be a hard, and it's not Cameron Kinney.
He's a guy that
so nobody remembers this player. Isn't that? I told you.
There
nobody.
You go. Will Taylor got it. Justin Brown.
Who got it?
Brown.
Will Taylor. Brown got it. Yep, Justin Brown. Everybody's guessing all the. I told you they would guess like crazy, like just because nobody remembers he was on the team, and he
was only there for 1 year.
Barely less than Kenny Stills, mind you. And Saunders was barely less than those two. That's what I was saying. They had, and then right behind them was Shep. Like it went boom, 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 like within the numbers of yards. So that was a really good year for wide receivers at Oklahoma. Dang, they were good. And they said Cameron Kinney. My goodness. Yeah, I wish. End Zone Production said Brandon Drumm.
Okay, back to business here as we work on getting Mongo his spring game tickets. Where do we have to go from here, Brandon? What haven't we talked about that's gone down over the last week? KJ
Obviously,
Daniels,
there's a commit that happened that we kind of buried that thing. Not basketball. Wide receiver commit. Little KJ action. Little speed.
KJ Daniels of Franklinton, Louisiana becomes the third commit of the 2023 cycle or 2024 cycle. Gosh, the years all run together at a certain point for Oklahoma. Joining Jeremiah Newcomb, joining Michael Hawkins. Speed, and more speed. That is what KJ Daniels brings to the University of Oklahoma. Has yet to receive his 24/7 sports composite ranking, but initially I expect this guy to be a high 3-star type of player with the potential to rise. And heard a lot of Hollywood Brown comparisons made with this kid. And obviously that's lofty praise. Hollywood Brown was a first-round NFL draft pick. And so if that's what KJ Daniels turns out to be, then goodness gracious, the Sooners got themselves a hidden gem out of the boot. But even if KJ Daniels is only half of what Hollywood Brown was at the University of Oklahoma, still definitely a win for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. Getting a kid out of LSU's backyard that grew up an LSU fan, LSU dragged their feet, didn't really express any particular desire to offer him. He jumps on board with Oklahoma.
Yeah, and the Hollywood Brown comparisons aren't just coming from media; it's coming from people inside the Switzer Center. Like you talk to people inside the Switzer Center, and the first thing they'll say is he is Hollywood Brown, and these are from people that were around during that time. And so when you start to get those comparisons, and remember, Hollywood Brown wasn't this huge recruit to start. He actually started rising in the rankings later in his JUCO. So they could have a similar trajectory, except for, excluding the JUCO part, senior year, whatever. But, and I think he's going to. I think Daniels is going to be that type of guy that as more people watch him and get eyes on him, the more people are going to like him because his film is phenomenal, by the way. It's just speed. And we got to watch him at the Under Armour camp in Dallas, and that was the takeaway then. Nobody could cover him, whether it was a slant, whether it was a dig, whether it was a corner or a fade or whatever. He had a couple of yards on the corner, and didn't matter how good the corner was because he is so fast. Well, that fits into exactly what Lebby wants done in his offense is, slants, cross routes, posts, seam routes, streaks. That's literally the offense. And he's going to fit in like a glove with that. I think it's a perfect fit. You add some big body guys like Wesco and Kearney, get bigger, more, physical wide receivers to go with him. And I think you've got a really good wide receiver class. And it looks to be trending that way, Parker. I think Oklahoma sits really good with the other two that I mentioned right there with Wesco and Kearney. And if those are your three wide receivers and you add Brendan Thompson to the equation as a transfer, does he get his freshman year back? Is he going to be a freshman
Brennan
again?
Thompson, I don't know for sure. Let me double
I
check
don't
on
remember
that.
how many games he played.
Yeah, there were
So,
conflicting reports on. Yeah,
yeah.
so he played in 9 games, so he's
So
already
no,
burned a year.
get that back. So okay, still, he'll be when they come in, he'll be a junior. I mean, you have him. You've obviously got Petaway. You've got several other guys, young guys that are on the squad. Nick Anderson, all those guys, and you've got a really good wide receiver core at that point. And obviously, they'll add more transfers. Like that's going to happen. Speaking of transfers, Parker, Jaden Davis. I think there's been kind of a split on him transferring. Like there's some people that are upset with it, feel like it's a big loss. And then there's some people that feel like, whatever. Right. Well, I think it's down the middle. Honestly, I think it's like you could split it down the middle and you're probably getting the right answer there because there is experience, there's leadership you're losing. The one thing I will say, and he did make some plays last year that were critical for Oklahoma at times. But he doesn't have that same confidence, the same swag that he had as a freshman. I think that's been the difference between the Jaden Davis we saw and the Jaden Davis that could have been.
Well, I don't even really think there's a ton of nuance to it, Brandon. I just think that's a guy that peaked very early and hit his ceiling. He's exactly the same player in 2023 that he was in 2019.
Exactly.
That's a pretty good player, too. That's a guy that can be a Power 5 contributor. But the one constant with Jaden Davis during his time at Oklahoma was that he always got passed up on the depth chart. He would always start the season as the starter at cornerback. And at some point along the line, he would get overtaken. It was Woody Washington in 2020. It was Latrell McCutcheon in 2021. And it was CJ Colden in 2022. He just never, and he was a great practice player that wasn't as great on Saturdays, is what I think it comes down to. He'd make a play every now and again, but for the most part, he was an average cornerback. And at Oklahoma, as the standard has risen defensively, and it has risen since 2019, maybe not by much, but it's certainly risen. As the standard of play has risen, Jaden Davis, on the contrary, has somewhat flatlined.
Yeah, the irony in this is person I talked to, I know some people down in old Aggieville and College Station, and one in particular I know really well. Kind of told me that they're kicking the tires around potentially going after Jane Davis. That would have been interesting to see him end up at A&M. Like I don't think it's going to happen, but tires are being kicked around with that. So, and who I'm talking about.
I do.
As far as where that's coming from. And but yeah, that would be interesting. I think just because I think he would add a different dynamic to them just culturally. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you need to bring those types in. You may not have an idea of them being like a huge contributor on the field. You'll give them a chance, but they're going to be locker room pieces, right? And I think that's where he's going to be missed the most for Oklahoma is in the locker room because he is a really good leader. When you talk to a lot of young corners and just defensive backs in general, they always brought up the fact that Jaden Davis was literally mentoring them. Like he was there for them, whether it was the film room, whether it was a playbook, whether it was technique, he was there for them.
And I will, yeah, to kind of emphasize that point there, Brandon, we got the opportunity to talk to Jaden Rowe after practice yesterday, and you could tell he was he was a little shaken by the fact that Jaden Davis wasn't going to be around anymore. He said, "Man, I'm going to miss Jaden. That guy was a leader." And kind of like you said there, Brandon, a guy that was always there for the younger guys and always willing to lend a hand here or kind of make a correction where necessary or share a useful tip with one of the younger guys. And one of the dudes that was in the film room a lot. And so, hey, he's certainly going to be missed. And I think it is not a direct comparison by any means, but almost a Brendan Radley Hiles type of player at Oklahoma, in that he's kind of unpopular among the fans because he had his ignominious moments on the gridiron, but behind the scenes, in the locker room, in the film room, a guy that had nothing but respect from his teammates at Oklahoma.
Justin Broyles.
Justin Broyles, another great example.
There's been, defensive back is a funny position with the fans because you're out on an island. So every mistake that you make is magnified to the tilt. Like, it's just a big deal. And so if you make a mistake and it happens to be, in a critical moment, you're never coming back from that unless you do something of similar positively, like, it's just hard with fans. I think cornerbacks, corner and quarterbacks are similar type positions when it comes to the fans. Like, there's always that negative connotation that comes with it. If you've made a big mistake, that glaring mistake is going to haunt you until you make up for it somehow, some way. And one time isn't going to make up for the big mistake. You've got to do it multiple times. They're two weird positions when it comes to that because they're so critical too. Like, just massive positions on the field. Quickly, people have asked that kind of came in late a little bit. Go ahead and you drop your 5 commits and I'll drop mine again.
Okay. What did I say? I said Isaiah Autry, Jaden Hardy, Brennan Thompson, David Stone, and Michael Patterson McDonald.
You people that come in later are going to like his a lot more than you're going to like mine. Mine's not as he said he was throwing darts out there. So I gave 6. I said Autry, Jaden Hardy. I said Casey Poe. I said Jonah. I said Brennan Thompson. I gave 6, and then I said Xavier Robinson. So you're gonna love Parker's. You'll like mine. I think.
And to be clear, Brandon's is far more likely than mine. Far more likely. Kind of going the optimist's route with that one.
That's fine. Be the other optimist on that. I think the fans will enjoy that. Either way, you land either of those 5 or 6, and you're a top 10 class. Like, it doesn't matter at that point. Like, you've solidified yourself, top 10 class. Now you just put the pieces together. I actually think, like, I almost said Nigel Smith. Because we both know him fairly well.
Oh, yeah.
Talking to him as much as I did lately, and then talking to people around Oklahoma, like, that confidence and where they stand it's palpable, man. It's
quite high.
Pretty high on where they feel they stand with one Nigel Smith. And if they can pull that off, if you can pull that off and get a Jonah and then similarly wait on Stone, I think you're going to end up with Sims by the end of May, maybe the middle of June. I think Zadavian Sims is on there. Now you're just kind of playing around and waiting on David Stone, man, and then Williams Nwaneri. And whenever those two pop, which we both think I think Stone's in August, late July, August. And it sounds like Parker Nwaneri is going to be in the fall. Is that correct?
Well, it appears my webcam has given out, so mark that off your bingo cards. I I don't think it'll take till August for Will Nwaneri to make a decision.
That's his
I,
plan, though, right?
that's what he said most recently, but you know, I know plenty of people up in that area, Brandon, and from conversations that I've had with people in Nwaneri's camp, it feels like that one could get done sooner than August or September.
Gotcha. Well, if that's the case, I mean, either way, if they end up with a Jonah, Nigel Smith, um, Winery, Stone, Sims, and then I don't know who that other edge is going to be, man. Like I used to feel it would be Jashawn Ross, but I'm not.
How about Logan Thomas?
That is a good one. He will be in Norman this weekend. I gotta go see him, man. I've been down there 3 times, and I've always talked to him and David Hicks. I'm sorry I'm bringing that name up, folks, but
Oof.
um, he does like Oklahoma quite a bit. So I need to get back down there to see him. He talked about Oklahoma and that offer in January at the All American camp in San Antonio, and said that would be one that really hit home with him. And so it sounds like his actions are, coinciding with what his words were.
Let me
And I
throw
think
another
that,
one out there. Kid that visited Oklahoma recently, and that when you look at his offer sheet, is a kid that, if he were to OV with / pick Oklahoma, it would make a lot of sense just because OU is one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious school on his list.
Mhm.
Minnesota kid, Wyatt Gilmore.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Keep
That's
an
a
eye
good
on that.
one.
Got a
Mhm.
feeling. Maybe it comes to nothing, but got a feeling.
Dominique McKinley is a name people need to watch. I've said that earlier. I'll say it again. I reported on OU Insider. He has taken an official visit to Oklahoma June 16th through the 18th. He visited Oklahoma in January for the first junior day. He also may be there this weekend. He's working on trying to make it to Oklahoma this weekend. And the longer LSU holds out on getting a defensive line coach, the sheer fact that Todd Bates was one of his original offers, like, I don't know how early it was, but I talked to somebody and I've talked to McKinley himself, and he even confirmed it. He said, look, Coach Bates is the one that told me I was going to be a 5-star when it was all said and done. And there it is. And he said Coach Bates told LeBlanc he was going to blow up, and he did. He said he told PJ Adebawore he was going to blow up, and he did. Like, and I guess it's one of those things that's really stuck in McKinley's head. And so that's a name people need to just know. Is getting a kid out of Louisiana is going to be hard regardless, because whoever goes in and gets the LSU job, they already have a built-in advantage coaching LSU. And just the fact that all those kids love the Tigers there. So it's still going to be difficult, but Oklahoma is the one that's scaring everybody right now with him. And that shocked me when I heard it. And it shocked me even more after I talked to McKinley about it, because he didn't deny any of it. He's like, yes, I love Oklahoma. Like, I love Oklahoma. I'm going to go up there for an official visit. And to me, I mean, I think Bates is going to really, really shut some negative people up and detractors away from him this cycle. I wholeheartedly believe that, Parker.
Like I said, 3 months from now, July 19th, 2023, I think that Todd Bates narrative will have been put to bed.
And from talking to people, I think he's fully aware of all the detractors. There's been a question, Parker, about a couple of times. Austin Lynch has asked a couple of times in the chat, Cubby Black, Sammy Brown. Okay. I don't think Oklahoma gets either of them. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
start there. So But after the visit Sammy Brown had a couple weeks ago, I'm not writing Oklahoma completely off there anymore. One, from what he said, two, from talking to people down in that area, three, from talking to people in Norman. Like, it went from it's Clemson and Georgia, nobody else. Like, Oklahoma's there, but that's it. They're just there. They're going to get a visit. To Sammy hitting me up and saying, hey, that visit dwarfed anything I've taken yet. Like, it's the best visit by far. I enjoyed it more than any visit I've taken. Like, not just an Oklahoma visit, like any visit he's taken. And so he's planning on coming back. He's actually moving his visit up, he said, or at least working on the logistics of moving it up for the Champion Barbecue. So it'll go Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma, and then potentially Tennessee or Ohio State will also get a visit. We'll see. Parker, I need your face on here about what I'm about to say.
Why does my face keep disappearing?
I don't know, but here's the deal:
there's no
I'm trying to stick
logical
with the linebacker
explanation.
here.
There's no logical explanation for why I have so many webcam issues. It's literally just the demons of technology.
Okay. So Oklahoma, I don't think they end up with Sammy Brown, but I think they make it interesting. I'll say that. I think it's kind of like, for me, it's like the Bear Alexander situation. It's like they're going to make it interesting. They're just not going to win. That's it.
I will be curious to see how Bear Alexander fits into the USC vision / scheme, given that he is well over 295 pounds.
Correct. That is something I was about to say. And number two,
Benny Wiley's going to have him shake weights with all four limbs.
For somebody that was just so like it was going to happen, kind of like the Deshaun McCullough. Like, remember how quickly Deshaun McCullough was in the portal? He visited Oklahoma very soon after and was committed to Oklahoma very soon after, and we all knew that was going to take place. What's the holdup here? What's the holdup? I think that's something people need to kind of. Now, again, he's going to end up at USC unless something drastic happens, but it's the longer this takes, the more interesting it gets, right? Like, I think that's got to be the narrative we have to take at that point, right? You have to. But speaking of linebackers, we were talking about earlier, Sammy Brown. I've talked to two people very knowledgeable with the Peyton Pierce situation. You're smirking because you know where I'm going with this. Don't be shocked if Oklahoma doesn't make this a very interesting situation down. And I'm not talking about like right now, because I think he's going to stay pretty solidified at this point. But talk to me in June or July, and then we'll see where we stand there. Don't you disappear on me, Parker. After that,
I disappeared. Unbelievable. I can't buy a win tonight, man.
Well, so what do you think of, whoa, stink ass cat? And you may say your name. Thank you for the super chat. But he said, get yourself a new webcam, man.
I'm going to try. I think that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with the camera. It's the same camera that I use to take photos.
It's probably the computer, bro. You probably need to get a new computer.
And look, that may be. This computer's not that old either.
How old is it?
3 years old.
Yeah, it's as old as mine. I don't know what your deal is. Anyways, what's your thoughts on what I just said with Peyton Pierce? Do you agree with what I've been told by several people?
I agree that Oklahoma will try. I also think Peyton is the type of kid that once he makes up his mind, it's going to take a lot to change it. And so they're going to have to tug at his heartstrings a little bit. Brent Venables is probably going to have to be the lead on that. but I
There's a lot of people down in that area that don't think it's going to stick for some odd reason. I don't know why.
interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see,
We'll
man.
see.
We'll
Yeah, we'll
see.
see. Like I think it's just like we kept saying the Peyton Bowen situation last year. We're like, yeah, we'll see. I think this is more solidified than Bowen. I think we need to preface that. Like, I agree with you, but the people that told me that seem to know the situation pretty well, and that shocked me a little bit just because of how new the commit was. So whatever, right? We'll see. Who are the linebackers? Who does Oklahoma get?
Who
I
did
don't know
they
that they get Ty Anthony Smith, and I would have said that 2 weeks ago, but I need to report. I'm going to report on OU Insider before I say anything here on why I feel.
Here's a guy to watch this weekend. Guy's going to be taking a visit to Oklahoma for the very first time. DJ Barber from the state of Alabama. Right now, right on the cusp of being a 4-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Look at his offer sheet. It's impressive. Alabama, Auburn, Louisville, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M. And then there's Oklahoma. And Oklahoma is a school that at the outset he was very, very high on. Got the offer a couple months ago. Obviously, he's taken some visits since then. The sands have shifted a little bit, as it were. And I don't know whether he's really gotten a chance to heat up with Oklahoma yet. Maybe this weekend gives rise to that opportunity. So DJ Barber's a guy I'd pay close attention to how his visit goes this weekend. But if I had to guess right now, I think OU's got a really good shot with Jordan Lockhart out of the state of California. And I'm intrigued by the Braden Platt deal.
Platt. Those are the two I was going to say.
Braden Platt.
Yep, we agree. All right. I think Oklahoma stands a really good chance with both those. So, yeah. And that would be a great get. I think people initially went straight for the Drew Woodaz. I think Austin Woods is another. Is it Ashton Woods? Excuse me. Ashton Woods is another to watch. Obviously, his mother played at Oklahoma as a volleyball, and so there's a connection there. She's former Mrs. Blaylock, obviously. So there's a connection there with his mother being an alum. But there's a few guys out there, and I wouldn't throw away the Ty Anthony Smith thing yet. It's just, and I'll just go ahead and say it, man. Like, he already has a visit set up to USC for June 16th through the 18th. And that's Oklahoma's big weekend. Oklahoma doesn't want to do a bunch of huge weekends. They want to have, like 30 guys in or 20 guys or whatever in on for officials for that weekend and call it good for the most part. Not as a whole, but they want to get a lot of their visits out of the way. That way they can get people back for the unofficials and get people, start trying to piggyback and get on a run again. So they're trying to do it similar to what they did last year, where they brought all those guys in that one big weekend and it paid off huge for them. Right. Well, they're trying to do that again. And Oklahoma is very much in that. If you're really interested in us, you'll change your visits up to accommodate with us. You're going to win some doing that. You're going to lose some doing that. And right now, it looks like Oklahoma may be losing a little bit with Ty Anthony, though he did say that it is a USC-Oklahoma battle. So there's still time for him to switch the dates up. Just something to watch. Something to watch there. Because if he does switch the dates up, I would throw him in there and pencil him in there as one of the guys that would most likely be in this class. That's just the vibe I get from him. So,
bit of news to close out the show. T.A. Cunningham is transferring from Los Alamitos to Miami Central. So USC in shambles.
And the Miami Hurricanes, not. I don't think Oklahoma's even really recruiting him anymore. So
I kind of get the sense where that one's headed.
Yeah. And, he's going to be a Kane. There it is. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe. If you want to be an OU Insider member, go ahead and sign up. Right now, OUinsider.com VIP. Would love to have you. But that's going to do it for myself, Parker Thune, Spencer Forsythe. You guys have a blessed day.